One thing that I think is really promising about an independent approach to doing music, a DIY, ethic or philosophy or whatever you want to call it, is that it's living proof that there are still, you can still carve out a niche, and do your own thing and play by your own sense of what's right and what's wrong, and still survive. Scene, whether it's musical or whatever, it's democratic, it's very democratic. That's what attracted me to rock and roll in the first place, was you don't need to know what you're doing, you just put on a guitar and just do it. We play shows with, grindcore bands, and we play shows with bands all across the musical spectrum, but the shows that seem to resonate the best despite genre differences, those shows where we seem to share a common mindset with the other musicians, and politics more often than not can provide that common ground.
Have you got the hang of it? Was it got its fangs in you? Have you got the hang of it? I want to thank the Flint local, everyone involved in putting on the shows for having us tonight. Where we're from, there's not really a lot of places to play that are all ages, so it's very cool to see this. So, respect.
You guys like Metallica? Yeah, Slayer. You guys like Slayer? Alright, that's cool. That's cool, because this is a Thunderbirds Are Now song. I was thinking we would have a dance contest for the rest of the show, and whoever danced the best would get to kiss Scotty, our keyboard player at the end. Yeah. Boys, girls.
Tired fighter, he's a spy and a girl delighter.
So you gotta have bands, not too many bands, fans.
You have to have people to host shows.
Promoters.
You have to have people
that do like zines and
labels.
Things like this, like interviews and...
Yes, this is all part of it. Photographers.
Photographers are
very
great
important.
because people love pictures.
You gotta document what's going on.
You have to have people that document and
knowledge.
spread word about the scene itself.
I think people need to recognize that there's more to music than music, as far as album artwork, be it graphic design, painting, in photography. Like, I think a lot of the times stuff like that's overlooked and almost taken for granted, because it's just like, any idiot will go out and be like, oh, I can take pictures of your band, and I take it very seriously because it's something I love to do, just like a musician takes his music very seriously.
Can you turn up my mic a little bit?
It doesn't have to be turnout or number of CDs sold, just meeting people, and we've had plenty of shows where if you graded it on a purely materialistic manner, they were awful, but they were the greatest shows in the world because we made friends.
Right.
And as long as everything works together, it's what makes a sweet scene.
I've just always been like do-it-yourself kind of person, and I don't know really about the. I think that there's definitely politics. It's such a tumultuous time in Iraq and just everything going on that it's like, how can you not be like, how can you not care about like your future or somebody else's future?
To say something. Usually besides the people that are always there, they always say something, but you see like a new face and they say something really nice and it just makes it like an awesome show.
Lots of chicks.
Money.
Yeah. And money. Chicks and money. Actually, that's like the two things we don't do.
High school, maybe about 6 or 7 years ago, and I wanted to be involved with music, and I didn't play any instruments, and I kind of felt like that kind of too late in the game to get started, like learning and going through all that. And I figured this would be the next best way to get involved with it.
Not just screen printing or whatever, anything. If you got something that you can do, do it. Find an empty storefront and do it. If you like comic books, start a fucking comic book store. If you it's not easy, but it's more possible than people think. And get a lot of help, because people that you might not think of will help you. Ask, and you need help. But it's doable. Please, we need more people to start businesses and to do it themselves. DIY isn't just putting a safety pin in your cheek and calling yourself punk rock. It's actually doing something. That's the way the scene works. If you're in long enough, if you're around long enough, just responsibilities just start affixing to you, and it's good. It's a good thing. You start helping out more. You start getting involved more. And then suddenly you can't escape.
Something into the show, you're playing decent. 2 or 3 people, or hopefully more, but at least a few people get into it, and you can really tell it. And like, I don't know, we played a couple shows like with crazy hardcore bands or whatever, and it's like, if we can just get a few people like us, I feel like we've done something, Like, okay, we play as good as we can play, and, I don't know, that's a good part of it.
places we've been to, seriously, like one of the best scenes is Michigan.
I think Michigan is a strong scene.
Yeah, it is. And like kids actually get off their ass and go to shows. It's really good networks.
People like tend, like you read on message boards, people tend to bitch about Michigan or whatever. But like, you know, they say, oh, it's, you know, it's this, it's a fashion show, and it's this and that, and it's like, yeah, there are like the few like kids that are like that, you know, but I mean, compared to like a lot of the cities we played in out of state, like Detroit really doesn't have that, you know, and the fucking kids showing off their new kicks. Kids are always excited about the shows. Like, we play here all the time, you know, like three times a month or so, and we still get a good draw, and kids really want to come out and check it out.
Kids generally have like a really good ethic about things, and like everyone wants to work together and help each other out. And it's like something that could work so much better and bigger scales.
We definitely support people that are really into the DIY thing. Like there's like the Idle Kids Books and Records around here, and they do tons of stuff. And then there's like, you know, VG Kids Screenprinting, and then there's like, you know, the State Control Records, and we're always all about supporting stuff like that. You know, whether we don't talk about it in our music, but we definitely tell kids, listen, you know, go over there. They have some pamphlets about like veganism, vegetarianism.
I mean, we've gone to VG Kids for most of our merch, and we do our pins locally all the time. And, like, I mean, all the labels we're working with right now, like, we're friends with these people.
I think that's critical. I think that's part of it. That's what makes it a community. Is that there's, you know, it's interacting. It's not, you know, this little like band that's going through some corporate mainstream place to get their stuff. They're, you know, they're going through somebody who's into the same thing that can identify. You know, it's a working relationship. What I've noticed and what I found is that there's a niche that needs to be filled for bands that want to be bigger, they want to be national, whatever, but they're still trying to retain some of their roots, and there's, I guess, a lot of the small independent printers are kind of shunning bands like Dashboard Confessional, who are breaking through the mainstream. But Dashboard Confessional, they want to maintain their roots a little bit. They want to go with independent printers whenever possible. They know where they came from, and so if all the other independent printers are like saying, no, you're too big, then they're forced completely into the mainstream. We work with Glamour magazine, which is more of a politics base instead of a music base, but it's the same thing. It's like there's like in the independent music scene oftentimes is super political, so it works the same way. And there's reciprocating relationships where it's not all an economic exchange. You know, we all have things to benefit from working together, and everyone feels better about it too because you're working with someone that you can identify with. Wherever I've been since I was like 15, I've had like some sort of press setup, and then at one point, about 4 years ago, we decided to do it full time and just push it and like, you know, be as professional as we could.
I'm a firm believer that the only way that independent bands can make it is if they help pull each other up. And a lot of times in the big cities, like Detroit, but even in the bigger ones, it's pretty much dog eat dog. And actually Detroit is too, because there's so many talented bands, but I think that it's important for each band to help each other out, and I'm kind of like part of instigating that. Independent businesses should support other independent businesses, and you know, a lot of it has to do with, you know, when you're grassroots and you're just starting out, you're a do-it-yourself label, or you know, you're not a represented band, you don't have a lot of money. And usually if you work with other people that are doing their own independent business, then you can work out deals and kind of help each other grow. And that's very important, I think. It's very important. But right now I'm very grassroots. And the bands help me out as much as I help them out, so we're kind of like a collective. And in a way that's really cool, because a lot of labels don't have a really good relationship with their bands. To run a label, it takes a lot of sacrifice too, but for a band to make it, it's a lot of hard work. And even though being in a band's supposed to be fun, they can't forget that it still is a business. If they really want to get anywhere, I mean, they're going to have to promote themselves and make connections. And so some people don't like that, but it's all part of the game. But I think that women still don't play a big enough role in the music scene. I think that there should be more women taking charge and promoting shows and starting up labels and starting up zines and, you know, being in bands. I think that that's really important. There really isn't enough, especially in the local scene. It's still like a boys' club, especially with promoters. There's not enough women promoters at all. Most of the clubs in this area in Detroit are booked by men. And so it's really hard sometimes for a woman to kind of shoot the breeze and, you know, BS around to try to get shows. So you have to really be straightforward and just be like, here's how it is, because you really can't, I can't really talk to them on a guys club type of level.
We want to thank Kat for putting together such an awesome fucking label for all of us to be on. Put together this show tonight. Yeah, Kat! Even though she probably won't remember any of it this morning.
Believes in and everybody commits to, and everybody says we're going to live by this 100%, and that's what, you know, that's what's going to be big. It's not going to be Kid Rock. It's not going to be the White Stripes. You know, it's not going to be all the, you know, MC5 rock. It's not going to be
the sense of community.
It's going to be the community. People, yeah, family. You know, I mean, we should all be in this together. Do we want to put Detroit on the map, or, you know, do we just want to be another city known for
a couple of good bands?
Yeah, a couple of good bands.
I think it's important just to help out, you know, not only your friends, but your scene and your community. And if people are giving their honest effort to help out, you know, the scene and the bands in their scene, then you should definitely, you know, put forth your effort to help them out as well.
Sometimes I felt like in music, I didn't find that community. And it's like now, it's like if there's a band out there, you know, maybe they're not the greatest band, but they got the drive and they're good people. It's like, yeah, let's do it. Let's all work together and be completely independent.
I was involved, you know, when I was in a band before I did the studio thing, I was involved in the whole independent do-it-yourself scene for years anyhow, so I was pretty familiar with it coming into here. And that's part of my slant too. Although I'm not as cheap as a basement studio, I'm not as expensive as those other big places, and I fall right in between economically, and that works for a lot of people. So I'm more inclined as a small businessman, especially working with bands that who are people I know or referred by people I know, to be a lot more informal with how things are paid off or when they're paid off, And when you're dealing with a huge corporation or something like that, I mean, I don't think you have that same sort of rapport between the customer and the provider. You know, it's like get the credit card out, pay now, or you can't walk out the door with it. And a small studio and small businesses like the screen printing shops and stuff like that, if the guy knows the people and he knows they're good for the money, he's more inclined to let them walk out the door and go about their enterprise. It's way about, you know, it's about a face on every customer and proprietor, whereas in big business it's not, you know, and we all get to know each other on a first name basis in a business like this, which is really cool.
Or like after playing 2 or 3 shows in a weekend, like my neck, like I wouldn't even be able to lift it up. It's so weak from rocking out so hard.
So just the moral is that Adam is the greatest drummer ever
Yeah.
to pick up.
My mom was like, don't headbang too hard. Your brain will hit against your skull and you'll get damaged from it. I'm like, what?
That's why I don't call my
Screw
parents.
that, Mom. I'm a rocker. This is what I'm gonna do.
Like, what's really good about Michigan and the scene here is that it allows bands, you know, at all different levels to play shows and to grow as, you know, as the bands grow. And I mean, there's room for bands that just want to get together and play for fun, but aren't too serious about going anywhere with it. And if you start to get serious or really work hard at it, it'll, you know, the scene will support you as you go along. I think that's been really helpful for me.
Started going to shows to see like really good bands and not be 100 feet from the stage. You know, you could be right up next to the stage and these bands are like really good. There's a lot, like I like the Michigan scene. There's tons of bands around here that are awesome. And so I just found that exciting to be like right up, like face to face with the singer or the guitar player or whatever. And it was just exciting, and I like going to shows for that reason.
What's going on, guys?
Well, we noticed this strange thing on the bottom of the van.
Okay.
I don't know how that happened.
Now move your ass, because we gotta be there in like 2 hours.
I'm Eric Nilsson. It's really great when you go to a show and you see a book section and it talks about all different types of politics and offers all different types of alternative politics. Whenever you go to a scene and you see zines and those sorts of things, for example, the ARA, Anti-Racist Action, they're a group of good skins that work against fighting racism, work against fighting homophobia, work against fighting sexism, and they provide a lot of literature and even buttons and pins for people to show their support with these types of things.
One thing that punk music has always had going for it is that it's always been kind of a beacon of hope for a lot of people. I mean, a lot of adults look at punk music and they only see a bunch of punk rock kids with crazy hair and piercings and tattoos and screaming, and they don't know what to make of it, and they think it's a bad thing, it's very horrible. But if you're actually on this side of the coin, if you're here, then for a lot of the kids I know, I can say personally for myself, and I'd be even willing to speak for probably Dave and definitely for Ryan from Unity Crew, that with me doing this shop, I feel I'm repaying a debt, because my life was saved by punk rock music and skateboarding. I wouldn't like the person I would have become if I hadn't had these influences in my life. And I think that there are things that give us hope and they make us have the drive to do better things, whether it be in the scene or outside the scene.
The thing that we provide to people is just the access to these types of information and ideas that aren't well represented elsewhere in the mainstream. And they can come here and find an array of different topics. You know, we have everything from books about vegetarian, veganism, animal rights, social justice, race issues. You know, that's just in literature, and then in music, there's all different types of sounds and words that we hope that people would find inspiring.
In our scene, because we are independent, a lot of the bands, let's say, that we do distribution for, or even some of the book companies and the authors that are on these smaller publication companies, they don't have the benefit of a large major label or a large distribution company handling their merchandise. So what we do, whether it's here or at a show, or whether it's some 15-year-old kid that orders Distro and does the same thing we are, for our scene, we provide the distribution, and we do it on a very do-it-yourself level. We make sure that people have access to these bands, and a lot of these bands without distros couldn't tour, because I know a lot of bands on tour bring distros of other bands' stuff, and what they'll do is they trade music back and forth so that you have a bunch of different things that people can choose from. So when you're doing a show, they're not only buying your stuff, they're buying like a representation of a lot of the bands you play with, the scene. I know a lot of bands like Propagandhi and Anti-Flag will actually bring AK Press bookmobiles with them to distribute, because the way we feel is a lot of this literature isn't available to people, and we try to make it available. In our scene, in being in the underground, it's essential that we do this distribution this way, otherwise people will not have access to this information. With zines, the educational value is also there too, because a lot of these zines, like Crime Thing puts out the DIY guides, and they basically, they'll show you how to trades, they'll show you how to sew, they show you how to do certain things, how to screen print. They give you contact info if you want to put out your own music and start your own record label. They'll give you contact info on that. I mean, there's so much stuff that you can pick up from these besides just finding connection with other people and hearing stories or reading poetry. There's, even outside the music part of it, because a lot of them are music-based, but there's a lot of information to be found in them.
Some of the stuff I requested to distribute from people. And a lot of the time I do trades, or consignment. Like, I mostly do consignment with the records and stuff that I distribute. But some of the zines, they send me a flat copy and say, I can make as many copies of it as I want for free, So it really varies. I just work it out with, individual people that do zines. I Girl grew out of the early 90s, punk rock scene, because the women that were involved in the scene, they felt really alienated from it, even though it was supposed to be a culture about youth and empowerment. They felt like women's issues weren't being addressed and they weren't being heard or anything. So they started their own bands and their own zines and started having this weekly meetings where they could come and talk to each other and support each other. And out of the weekly meetings or whatever grew activism.
Since I've been playing in a band, it's been a lot more girls involved in music than there has been before, which is good.
If you don't have that, if you don't have people helping each other, you can't exist in an independent music scene.
A lot of kids who listen to the bands, on my zine, don't go out and buy Rolling Stone or watch MTV. And so I think we're kind of beneficial in that matter, that we help the little man, and we kind of are the little man. I've basically learned just how great the independent community is. I feel like I'm part of it, which is a really cool thing.
We love 2 Stars Raining Sun.
Quit your band, I'm still loving it. It's unconditional love.
Same here.
It's the only time I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
I think about it all day. Just playing and being in front of, expressing to people and sharing stuff with people.
It's instant positive reinforcement too.
Yeah, definitely. When people are
On each other. It's a big web. Yeah. Because the bands need the promoters and they need the
shirts from the cheap company.
Yeah, they need the shirts and they need the labels. Everybody and the labels need all the people, and it just all meshes. Everybody kind of relies on each other, but that's good because it's like you have somewhere to turn if you need shirts. There's the independent shirt company over there. If you want to put out a CD, this guy can record you, you know. So it's all works out. Don't give up if you have your band started. Flyer like crazy, make a demo, hand it out to everyone you can, and just work your ass off and you'll get there.
Yeah, like when we first started, we just pretty much blew all our money on buying CDRs, and like for the first 6 months, we didn't even charge for CDs. We just paid like 100 CDRs. We like, oh, if anybody likes us, we got free CDs.
I've seen the hardest work ever come out of like the scene or whatever.
I'm out there because this is what I love to do.
Yeah.
So, like tonight, I don't think kids knew what the hell was going on, but I had a great time. I mean, for example, I just got off the road. Some kid set up a show, and he's like, oh, I have to put out flyers? I can't just do a show and people show up? No, there's an ethic involved, and you have to follow through with what you want to do. There's more to it than just writing a song and playing. You have to play from here. You have to play from here, you know? That's the only advice that I have.
Up north, there isn't as much hardcore like where we're from, but you come down south here, and there's tons and tons of hardcore metal bands, so it just kind of depends on where you're from. I mean, coming to a place like this for us is kind of strange because there's so many more bands. We come from a little town and there's just a few.
Because, you know, you're metal or you're hardcore, there's a lot of labels that are just tossed around. It's kind of stupid. You're a band. You're a band, you know?
Yeah. downstate is so alien to us, really, because for most people, like, you say, oh, from the UP, they're like, huh? Even people from downstate, they think we're part of Canada, for God's sakes, or they think we're part of Wisconsin. They don't count us as part of Michigan, you know, we're up there, and there's some really cool stuff that happens up there. Each other out as far as like getting people shows, and you know it's hard to, you can't get everybody a show, you can't do it for, you know, everybody, but it's definitely important, especially if you're trying to sustain yourself without a label or without help from the industry, you know, or want to be part of that industry, you know, if you want to just deal with people, that's so important. And fortunately there's a lot of people around Michigan feel the same ways.
Collective, Thunderbirds Are Now, M-Sword, and Charlevoix. Please give it up for everyone who played tonight, our friends, and all amazing, great bands on every level.
Art and music have gone hand in hand for ever. You have to have artwork to go along with the album for the J cards. You know, people like Jake Bannon from Converge is like a talented musician and does amazing layout work, to photographers like Lenny Friedman, who photographed, you know, the whole punk scene in the 80s and skateboards in the late 70s and 80s, and has had tons of his artwork in band layouts. So I mean, they go hand in hand, whether you're painting or, you know, doing photography, video, you know, music videos, or promoting music. So they all sort of tie in together as an outlet for creativity, you know, in whichever means you're going about it. For me, it was sort of combining my love of music and my newfound love of capturing sort of the music in a gelatin-based piece of plastic.
Don't be afraid to move.
Just get along and we'll all be able to succeed if we all help each other out instead of just fighting about it and making it a competition, because that's all it is once your scene gets out, then you're going to get out.
There's a lot of small record labels that do what they can to help out other record labels too, like Elkion and Acutest, and a lot of them out there that aren't in it for themselves, and that's what's really important.
Never give up, no matter what anybody says to you, whether it's your parents, whether it's another band, whether it's someone you look up to. No matter what, you're doing what you love, and that's all that matters.
Make sure that you're doing something that you want to do, and you're doing it for reasons that you feel very strongly in.
And
don't get
you would still do even if no one else ever listened to you or ever wanted to hear it or ever wanted to read your zine, but you would still make it just for yourself.
Go to shows. I mean, help promote. I mean, it helps us, it helps you, it helps, you know, bands that are coming up. I mean, like, there's no scene if there aren't people involved who aren't in bands. I mean, you know, there needs to be kids who are coming out to these shows and putting these shows on at venues and booking places and releasing records.
I'd say the one thing that everyone could do to support it all and make it stronger is go to shows. And I'm not talking about Shelter, St. Andrews, Clutch Cargoes. I'm talking about basement shows that people put on for touring bands. You've got hall shows that people rent out halls and they'll set up these shows. And
benefit shows on all levels.
Benefit shows, definitely, and benefit shows, because those are the things that keep the scene going and help making sure that places like us or State Control or Flint Local 432 do not die.
Don't give up. I mean, there are people out there that love your music, but there are a lot of people out there that will tell you you need to stop where you are, you know, right now. And I think that was a big thing for me, you know, especially, you know, starting out in high school. You know, like everyone wants to turn around and go, oh, that's the worst, you know, and I wouldn't be here today if you just, you know, just keep doing what you love, and someday, you know,
no matter like what happens, no matter, you know, what kind of bridges you cross and what happens, don't give it up, because the feeling that you get for playing in front of people and having people connect with you on the same level is just phenomenal.
I feel most of the time kids in the scene that start their own business, whatever it is, if it has to do with money, I haven't found one that hasn't used some part of that money to, you know, better the scene or put back into it. So monetarily, it keeps the money in the scene, in the community, in the independent businesses to keep thriving, and it's so important. Money is one of the most powerful ways you can vote today. You know, if you're conscious of where your money goes, it's really, really important. Once kids get into the scene and start to mature and they realize the value of the community in the music scene around them, what it's given to them, they could see an opportunity to expand that into their geographical community, into people that are around them, and see that, hey, if I can work within the music scene and make a positive environment, why can't I spread that to my neighborhood and people around me?
Sometimes I go in the bathroom and I look in the mirror and I go, people, they love you. You're gonna have an awesome show. You're gonna impress everybody, and you look great.